My mother-in-law cut my hair while I was sleeping, after I told her about my cancer because she wanted to help me with the process, but my father-in-law cut off her money while she was acting entitled. I am 33 years old. I was diagnosed with melanoma, a type of skin cancer, about 3 weeks ago. I always protected my skin from the sun, but I guess there are just some things you can't control. It was even worse to find out that by the time it was detected, it was already stage 2, but not far from stage 3. So it was melanoma, and we had to act fast to prevent further damage. I was already quite affected by all of this, but my mother-in-law just had to come and make things worse. My mother-in-law, let's call her Kate, has never really liked me much, but for my husband's sake, she's made an effort to tolerate me. The same goes for my sister-in-law, let's call her Hannah. And something they've always envied about me is my hair, because I have long and beautiful hair thanks to my genes. My mother is Punjabi from India, so we usually have beautiful hair, and since I follow Sikhism like my mother, I've never cut my hair. You can add that to the list of problems they also have with me. They don't like that I'm mixed race and that my mother comes from an immigrant family. They also don't like that I follow a different religion than Christianity, like the rest of their family. But it's not like I don't respect it. My husband and I celebrate our holidays and respect each other's beliefs, just like my parents did. But anyway, that's not the important part. Now, as I was saying, they've always been a little jealous because my hair is very long and beautiful, and I'm very proud of it because I've put a lot of effort into caring for it since I was a child. It's something people have always praised me for, and it's part of my beauty. I understand why they might be jealous, but it's not like they're ugly. Both Kate and Hannah are typical American beauties, blonde and pretty, and I never understood why they envied me. It's like they needed something to hate, and I was the perfect target. They've made strange comments about my hair, sarcastic jokes for no reason, but I've always ignored it. I know it's insecurity, so I haven't paid them much attention, but I never imagined Kate would do something so crazy. Basically, 2 days after we found out about the diagnosis, we decided to invite our families over to tell them. Everyone was very understanding, including Kate and Hannah, and I thought that was very kind of them, but it didn't last long. That day was a Friday, and the next day my husband had to leave for a business retreat for the weekend. Since I would have to reduce my work hours, he planned to take on more work because, unfortunately, we were going to have a lot of medical expenses that our insurance wouldn't cover. We needed money. We mentioned that in passing, and that same evening Kate announced that she would stay the weekend with me. I felt a bit skeptical, even though she was acting very kind, but I knew our history, so I didn't fully trust her. However, she admitted that she hadn't been very good to me in the past, but since her own mother passed away from cancer, she felt compelled to be with me and thought it would be good for both of us. It was a very sweet gesture, so I accepted. She spent the night and planned to stay for the weekend until my husband returned. Up to that point, everything was fine, but when I woke up the next morning and looked in the mirror, I noticed that my hair was much shorter and clearly badly cut. You could tell by the ends. Instead of reaching my shins, it only came down to my waist. It was a very serious thing because, as I said, in my religion, it's frowned upon to cut your hair, and I take it very seriously. I wanted to talk to my husband, but he had already left. So, in a panic, I went to the living room and suddenly remembered that Kate had spent the night there. And everything made sense when I saw her sitting on the couch watching the news as if nothing had happened. I knew immediately it was her. I suddenly understood why she had been so kind and why she insisted on staying. Most likely she had everything planned and was just waiting for my husband to leave to do it. I felt like a complete idiot because I literally enabled the situation myself. I had trouble sleeping, so the night before, I took some sleeping pills because I really needed to rest after receiving the diagnosis. The mistake was asking Kate for them. I hadn't taken any until that moment, so the amount might have been much more than I needed. Even my husband said he tried to wake me up to say goodbye that morning, but I was sleeping so deeply that he didn't want to disturb me. I wish I had woken up. Maybe I could have prevented it, but oh well. After seeing that my hair had been cut and finding her sitting on the couch, I confronted her immediately. I thought she would probably deny it or something like that, and I was mentally prepared to argue with her. I could imagine her saying, "I don't know what you're talking about, dear. I was just doing my mother-in-law thing here." But instead, she simply told me yes, that's exactly what she had done. And she said this with the utmost calm, as if it were for my own good. She told me she knew I had always loved my hair, but that since the diagnosis, she was sure I would eventually lose it, which, I must say, is not true. The treatment I was considering didn't affect my hair at all. If I had opted for chemotherapy, perhaps I would have lost it, but that wasn't the case. So the risk of losing my hair was minimal or non-existent. I was more at risk of losing my hair due to my mother-in-law's stress than from my therapy. But Kate, in her infinite wisdom as a doctor granted by the University of Paris, Texas, thought otherwise. What she did was completely useless. And instead of accepting blame and apologizing to me, she started telling me that she had only done it for my own good. She claimed she wanted to make the transition easier for me, that she was just trying to help, and that she didn't understand why I was so hysterical and upset about it. Obviously, I didn't react well. I was already going through a very difficult time with the diagnosis and everything, and this was the mother-in-law who was the last straw. I asked her to leave me alone and kicked her out of the house. Afterward, I called my husband and told him everything. He offered to come back immediately, but I told him it wasn't necessary, that I could handle it alone and just wanted to talk to him on the phone. He calmed me down, comforted me, and promised me my favorite ice cream upon his return. And after talking to him, I felt a little better. Well, the ice cream promise might have helped, I won't lie, but there was still a lot more to come. After talking to him that afternoon, I started receiving a bunch of calls and messages from Hannah and Kate because apparently, without knowing it, I had managed to ruin their plans. And obviously, all of this was my fault. I had as much idea what they were talking about as if I had time traveled, accidentally squashed a bug, and everyone turned into mutants upon my return. But I hadn't time traveled that day, and I didn't know what they were talking about, so I started ignoring them. After a few hours, I decided to call my husband for our evening call. When he finally answered, I understood exactly what had happened after my call. Correction. When he finally answered, I found out how karma had hit them hard. It turns out that after I spoke with my husband, he decided to call his father to inform him of all this. And my father-in-law is a serious man, one of those who greet you with a raise of an eyebrow, and that's supposed to be enough conversation for the evening. He's one of the most principled people I know, and as soon as my husband told me he had spoken with his father, I knew this wasn't going to end well for Hannah and Kate. And it didn't. It got worse. Apparently, after I kicked Kate out of my house and she returned to hers, she acted as if nothing had happened. But when my husband told my father-in-law everything, that's when my mother-in-law felt true terror. At first, Kate denied having bad intentions and said she just wanted to help, but under pressure and coercion from my father-in-law, she broke down and finally admitted that she saw the opportunity and took it, to cut my hair. And why did she do all that? Well, the answer is simple. Absurd, yes, but simple. And I guess I should have seen it coming. Hannah got engaged a month ago, and everyone was very happy for her. Even though she doesn't like me, she was going to have to invite me to the wedding to keep up appearances that the family gets along. And I knew that. Even you know that. And apparently, Kate confessed to her husband that the reason she cut my hair was because she already thought I was an attention seeker and received enough praise for my hair. And now, after the diagnosis, I would receive even more attention and sympathy for it. So she decided to cut my hair because she assumed the autoimmune therapy would affect it anyway. She just wanted to give it a head start because she didn't want to risk the treatment not doing it before the wedding, but she thought it wouldn't be too much trouble. Anyway, that's what she's saying. But at least one thing became clear. She cut my hair on purpose, and she did it for her daughter. I mean, I simply can't imagine someone being so insecure and petty as to do this to a person recently diagnosed with cancer just because she fears someone else will steal the spotlight at her daughter's own wedding. A wedding where her daughter was going to have all the spotlight because she's a beautiful girl. She was going to have a great dress, and it was her wedding. Seriously, how can something like that make sense? At my wedding, I'm sure there were people who thought I didn't look as beautiful as perhaps Kate or Hannah, considering they were even more dressed up and made up than I was. Did I care? Not at all. I was busy being happy because I was marrying my husband, the one I chose and who chose me to spend the rest of my life with. I didn't have time to think about who was more dressed up than me. I didn't have time for foolishness. I don't understand how people who have everything in life can be so insecure. Anyway, what's done is done. No, I can't get my hair back and glue it back on. That's not how this works. And I think they should take responsibility for what they did instead of making excuses. And here comes the karma. My father-in-law has decided that he won't finance the wedding. Instead, he's going to use that money to cover my medical expenses, everything the insurance doesn't cover, which is great news for my husband and me, because it takes a huge pressure off us and prevents my husband from having to work so much when he can spend time with me during my illness. So obviously, this has been a very hard blow to Kate and Hannah's egos. And whose fault is it, according to them? The one writing this post. The torment has already begun. I'm already using those funds for my treatments, and they are very displeased about it. In the 2 weeks since all this happened, I've blocked them and have no contact with them whatsoever. And in solidarity with me, my husband is also avoiding them. My father-in-law apologized to me, and I'm very grateful to him for everything he's doing, because it's not that he's obligated to do so, but even so, purely out of the kindness of his heart, he's being incredibly generous with us. I know perfectly well that he's trying to compensate for the harm his wife and daughter caused me, but it seems like he's the only one who truly cares because Hannah and Kate have continued with their attitude. Just yesterday afternoon, I received a message from them from another number saying that Hannah and her fiancé have decided to cancel the wedding for now because they don't have enough savings to have the wedding they had planned. So until they can raise that money, they'll have to postpone it. I don't understand how that's my fault. I didn't ask for this. It was an apology that came from my father-in-law, though it should have come from my mother-in-law, and I should be grateful because I could have reported her for assault. But her husband has been so generous that we considered not doing so. This is the best situation she can get, because if we took her to court, it would look very bad. Imagine we're in front of the judge and he asks what happened. Me. My mother-in-law cut my hair while I was sleeping. Judge. Your mother-in-law did what? What? Me. Yes, she did it while I was sleeping. After taking some pills because my cancer diagnosis doesn't let me sleep well. Judge. Bailiff. Tell my secretary to cancel her afternoon spa session. Now, OP, why did your mother-in-law do this? Me. Oh, because my hair made my sister-in-law, who was about to get married, jealous. Something like that. Judge. I remind you that the gavel is only for maintaining order in the courtroom. Leave it where it is. Even so, I know they sent me messages with the intention of making me feel guilty. And unfortunately, I do feel a little bad because I already told them about my diagnosis. Oh no, I don't feel bad for them. It's not that I'm happy that Hana and her fiancé can't get married. I couldn't care less, but as I said, it's not my problem. But that's how things are. Hana should demand the wedding money back from her mother, but she doesn't. And now I understand why my father-in-law decided to take that money to compensate me. He's doing it because he has seen that Hana is fine with what her mother did, and this punishment has served both of them. The only solution I see is for Kate to face charges for assault and hate crimes while her daughter gets her funds back and can get married. Or this. Update 1. 1 week has passed since my last update, and I've spoken with my husband and also my parents. Everyone has told me that I have no reason to feel guilty about any of this. After all, if my father-in-law has decided to help me and withdraw his financial support for Hana's wedding, then that's not my problem. Something commentators who said I did all this out of jealousy seem to have overlooked. What Kate did to me has no justification, because not only did she cut my hair, but she also mocked my beliefs. Everyone who knows me knows how important my hair is to me, and also my religion. And if she can't respect that, then I don't have to respect her feelings either. So I don't feel any guilt about my father-in-law helping me. I've been a bit tired. It's been exhausting dealing with all this drama while facing my health situation, but I'm very grateful to have my husband by my side, along with my parents and my friends, as well as my father-in-law, even though he doesn't say much. By now, I think everyone in my circle knows what I'm going through and has been very supportive of me. These past few weeks have been an emotional roller coaster, but I'm slowly getting used to it. I've been working from home when I can, but I'm choosing not to push myself too hard because I know I need to take better care of myself now. Kate and Hana are still blocked, but that doesn't mean they've gotten the hint and decided to leave me alone, because, of course, that would be logical. And logic means nothing to two delusional people like them. No, they've both done everything they can to continue bothering me, because it's not enough to have done something bad to a cancer patient. Let's take it further. But luckily for me, and unfortunately for them, I don't intend to give them the satisfaction of responding. I don't have the mental state or the energy to waste my time on this. So I've simply been ignoring all the messages they've been sending me from fake social media accounts and from different phone numbers. They've even tried to call me from other numbers so I wouldn't recognize it, but I don't answer calls from unknown numbers, so their plan has failed. So that problem has been easy to solve. I'm considering changing my number so they can't bother me at all. So far, on their family's side, only my husband and my father-in-law know what Kate tried to do. And I intend for it to stay that way, because I know it could cause a lot of problems if I told the rest of my husband's family. And believe me, I have every opportunity to do so, but I'm not going to because I'm simply not interested in creating more conflict. It was never my intention to get revenge or for karma to hit them. They brought that upon themselves. Telling my husband what happened isn't something I see that way, as he would have found out anyway when he returned. He knows about my religion and how much I cherish my hair. I couldn't just tell him I wanted to look good for summer and cut it a bit. However, if they push my patience too far, which doesn't seem very difficult these days, I won't hesitate to expose them. It's as if they're trying to see how much more I'll put up with until I decide to take it personally and ruin their lives. Update 2. Today, Hana's fiancé came to visit me. It was totally unexpected because he hadn't said anything to me since I was diagnosed. He was there the day we told everyone about my illness, but we're not close, thanks to Hana, and honestly, I had already forgotten about him. But today, he showed up at my house out of nowhere and completely caught me by surprise. He was very kind and polite. He asked if he could talk to me for a bit because he had something he wanted to discuss. I paused for a moment because someone kind and Hana couldn't possibly be a couple, but yes, he said it was him. It wasn't a prosopagnosia lapse on my part. Once we sat down and got the pleasantries out of the way, he went straight to the point and told me that he had been thinking about visiting me for a while because, apparently, Kate and Hana are very upset about my father-in-law's decision regarding the wedding money. And while he's perfectly fine with having a small, intimate wedding, something they can pay for themselves, he knows that's not what Hana wants, and it's not what Kate wants either. He doesn't want them both to be sad, so he's been trying to raise money however he can. Unfortunately, he doesn't think it's worth going into debt for something like that. That's why they've been arguing quite a bit lately. After thinking it over, he believed it was best to come and talk to me so maybe we could find a solution, because he doesn't want to see Hana unhappy, and he knows I could help if I wanted to. For a while, I had no idea how I could help him. and I think he noticed it in my expression because he started telling me that maybe I should talk to my father-in-law and convince him to finance the wedding, but with a smaller amount than he had originally planned. And then he said something very strange. He said he understood it was a difficult situation for me given my diagnosis, but that at the end of the day, Hana also deserves to be happy, and it wasn't fair for me to demand that my father-in-law use the wedding fund to pay for my medical expenses. He was still polite when he said it, but it was clear he harbored some resentment toward me. It took me a moment to process it, and when I finally did, I clarified that I never demanded any of that. It was my father-in-law who offered to cover my medical expenses of his own free will. I didn't force him or convince him, so I didn't understand where he got that idea. Obviously, at that moment, I started doing the math in my head and knew he had been told a very different version of the truth because, of course, why would Hannah and Kate tell him something that would make them look bad? And I was right, because when I told him that, he became very confused and told me that he was sure Kate and Hannah had told him that I was the one who demanded and pressured my father-in-law to use the wedding fund for my medical treatments because I had supposedly been playing the victim, saying the money would be too much for our finances. So I decided to tell him everything that had happened and what led to this situation because I felt he deserved to know the truth. When I finished talking about the hair, Kate's actions, her insecurity, and her envy, he was completely perplexed. It was clear he knew nothing about it, and for a while he didn't know what to say. He just stayed silent. A few minutes later, he told me that he genuinely had no idea about any of that, and that he had been told a completely different version. He clearly had a lot to think about, and I knew I wasn't lying because I showed him my new haircut. In the end, he seemed to have understood that he had been manipulated and deceived, and he apologized for wasting my time. I felt bad for him, so I wished him the best, and he left. Later, when my husband came home from work, I told him about the visit and explained what Kate and Hannah were trying to do, how they tried to manipulate Hannah's fiancé against me, and how they cornered him so much that he felt he had to come and talk to me and fix it himself. Honestly, we felt sorry for the poor guy. He has nothing to do with all this, and yet they dragged him into the middle of it. I can't imagine how he's going to resolve things with Hannah now, or if he'll even try. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm sure it won't be good for Hannah. Update 3. Just as I imagined, things didn't end well for her. After talking with me, I suppose they had some kind of confrontation. I don't know exactly what they talked about, because obviously Hannah isn't going to tell me those kinds of things, but I know for sure that they both decided to take a break. But instead of reflecting and trying to be a better person, she has decided to take all her anger out on me. Maybe, just maybe, if she analyzed it properly, she would realize that this isn't my fault, and that it's her mother's fault, or the lies she told her fiancé. But since I didn't study at my mother-in-law's university, perhaps I'm not qualified to comment. She vented on social media. She made a post saying that an attention-seeking, jealous, and insecure person had ruined their relationship. For a moment, I thought there was infidelity involved, but it wasn't clear she was referring to me. She could also be referring to her mother, who those adjectives fit very well, and she would be correct, but I'm sure she was referring to me. And obviously Kate came to her defense, commenting as if her life depended on it. She posted like 15 comments in a row within the same post, as if she didn't know the edit button or was allergic to it. Those things aren't taught in Paris, Texas, which, now that I mention it, I don't even know if it has a university. A lot of people started asking questions because everything they said was very cryptic, and it seemed like there was infidelity involved. But my father-in-law found out what was happening and asked a neighbor's son who knows, and I quote, how to navigate this young people's nonsense, to write a reply. My father-in-law, or rather his tech-savvy neighbor, wrote what was happening, and they did a better job than I ever could have. And again, they're blaming me for it. I've been in contact with my father-in-law, and he's been telling my husband and me how difficult it's being at home with Kate, because she's furious that he's supporting me. It's not a full conversation. It's some eyebrow movements and a few mumbled words, but after so many years, I think I've mastered his language very well. I feel bad for him because he's in the eye of the storm, but at the end of the day, maybe they can resolve their differences and work things out. So I'm not too worried about their relationship, but I can't say the same for Hannah and her fiancé. According to what my father-in-law told us, they had a big fight, and Hannah decided to move back to her parents' house for a while. And right now, the atmosphere at my father-in-law's house is quite tense, but only for him, because Kate and Hannah are perfectly fine with each other. He believes that everything will eventually calm down, and I really hope so because he's a good person and doesn't deserve any of this. He doesn't deserve to be treated like this just for having done the right thing. Anyway, it doesn't matter so much anymore because I know the rest of the family is against Kate and Hannah, so if they have any common sense, they'll apologize. I can't believe I wrote in the same sentence that my mother-in-law and sister-in-law have common sense. I apologize for this huge mistake. Once again, I think after all that has happened so far, it would be very foolish of them not to learn their lesson. But oh well, with them, you never know. So I'm not sure of anything. Update 4. More than a year and a couple of months have passed since my last update, and I've been really busy because between treatments and everything else, I've had a lot to focus on. Fortunately, the drama with Kate and Hannah is over. We simply don't talk anymore. My husband doesn't communicate with them either. The rest of their family remembers everything that happened, so they are somewhat cold towards them as well, although they still invite them to some events. My father-in-law continues to communicate with them in the same way, so you could say he's affectionate, although sometimes the eyebrows confuse me. They never apologize to me, and honestly, I no longer expect or want an apology at this point. I think we're better off not speaking, and we don't even acknowledge each other's existence when we coincide at family gatherings. Anyway, the reason I'm writing this update is that 3 months ago I was finally declared cancer-free. It has been incredible, and I can finally return to dedicating myself full-time to my life. So everything is going well. And my husband and I have also decided to try to have a baby, but since my body is still too weak, I've opted for adoption. For now, things are going well, and I'm happy to have the opportunity to be healthy and happy again. Even my hair has returned to its previous length. My sister-in-law never got married during this time, and she didn't even get back together with her fiancé. They finally went their separate ways. Hannah probably wasn't happy with me about that, but at least this time she has avoided showing it. My father-in-law isn't divorcing Kate either, unless he's tried and his lawyer didn't understand what he meant with his eyebrows. Perhaps that's why he had a new fishing boat. Maybe that's what the lawyer understood instead of prepare my divorce papers. Either way, if he's happy because he spends a lot of time on his fishing boat, we're all happy for him. In fact, we all express his happiness for him, because as you may know, my father-in-law isn't the most expressive. He's like those teddy bears. They don't have any expression, but deep down they're soft cotton. Update 5. I think by now it's clear that my father-in-law isn't exactly a person with great communication skills, much less when it comes to things he doesn't want to talk about. If it's about last night's baseball game, his vocabulary might expand to 4 or 5 words, maybe 7 if his team won, but if it's something he doesn't want to talk about, he won't say absolutely anything. That's why this surprised us, because we didn't know what was happening. However, he's been more communicative lately, especially when he informed us that he would be divorcing his wife. And he wasn't the one who filed for it, but his own wife. For the past year, she has been demanding that he return the money he used for my treatment. Hannah isn't getting married, but Kate wanted him to deposit the money into an account in her name to ensure that things like what happened wouldn't happen again. He has been telling her no, literally just no, and nothing else. But his wife told him that if he didn't, she would divorce him and would recover that money in the divorce process. Guess what? My father-in-law granted her the divorce and didn't have to give her that money. They just split the assets 50-50. And that was it. For those who wish to see my father-in-law away from my mother-in-law, this will be great news. I'm not really sure how to take it. I really dislike my mother-in-law, yes, but if she made my father-in-law happy, then I didn't care if they were together. However, I can't tell if he's happy or sad now. The other day, he invited us to go fishing with him on his boat, and we accepted. At one point, I think I saw him smile. Maybe because he loves being there, or maybe it was just a fly that hit his face. My husband says he's never seen him so happy, but I can't distinguish absolutely anything. Well, he's known him longer, but yes, he got divorced because my mother-in-law brought it upon herself.